Yeah. Mind, body, soul, check. 1, 2 is Joe Dash in the building. You know what the vibes is. And this evening, I am very fortunate to have this brother with me to give some game. And today we're going to talk about a bunch of things, especially the dynamics between men and women and how relationships actually work. Not the Hollywood thing that we've been sold and the dream we've been sold and all this stuff. This is a conversation aimed at men and women, why it doesn't work or why it does work. You know what I mean? So I'm very honored. Hugh, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming, King.
Honored, man. Honored, King. Blessed, blessed. Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
Bruh, for people that don't know, I saw Hugh at the Queen's. I work close with John, who runs the Queen's Walk group, and she put on a Valentine's Day type thing where they're talking about relationships. And I saw this gentleman there, and he was talking about some things that I resonated with, that me and my guys resonate with, and I thought we could learn so much more. And growing in information is key as we progress through age, not just growing through age, but we're growing through emotional growth, mental growth, spiritual growth. Everything has to grow in line. So I'm just really grateful, man. I'm just grateful. So I've got you here so I can ask my question, because that day I had a bunch of questions. I was like, because you said something that was so mad, and I was just sitting there like, oh my days, I wish all my men would just hear watch it, yeah. And you said something about
what was that? Now I'm fascinated. What was that?
You said something about sex. When the word sex comes up, everyone's ears seem to perk up. And you just said something that was so, to me, profoundly true. It wasn't discussed enough, which was, I would hear when I talk to my female counterparts that all you want is sex, all the man want is sex, and sex. And you said something that was so crucial, that when men get intimate, sex is a form of intimacy, is a language that we speak and what it means. Because when it's with your significant other, sex is not just, I'm just trying to have an orgasm. It means something deeper. And I've just never heard it articulated like that, because I know that, because the minute you said, I'm like, that's true. But I wouldn't have known how to bring that into a conversation to explain to people. Because when they say, oh, you want sex, I'm just like, I know sex is important, but the only thing I've said to people that I don't think it's the same way that you're looking at, where it's just a physical thing. I think it's deeper than that. I was like, because, but I didn't have the language you had, you know what I mean? So I want to start by just talking about some common misconceptions about men and in terms of our approach to things. What are some of the misconceptions? Because for people that don't know, I want you to tell them what you do for, like, what is your practice? Because you own your own practice. What do you do?
Okay, so I am a counselor, trained counselor and psychotherapist. Part of my private practice is that I see individuals, but a big part of my private practice is related to relationship counseling, relationship coaching. And there is a difference, because the counseling is something is more about exploring the issues, whereas like the coaching is more like, they're looking for tips and pointers and kind of a quicker intervention. But counseling is when this thing is set in, this problem is set in kind of deep, and there's some unresolved stuff. So sometimes need to see the couples individually so they can open up and then bring them back together and then work through stuff. So there's slightly little nuance, slight little differences. And I do some other bits and pieces, like I said, I work with, we mentioned before, I do work with disaffected youth, men in particular, or young men, boys. I work on a kind of a mentoring program. There is no rites of passage in the Western world anymore. You know, West Africa got specific rites of passage. One day you're a boy, you go through certain rituals, processes, you come out a man, no longer a kid. They don't have this adolescent weird thing where you just you know what I mean? You're 29, you're 32, and you're still queuing up for the Jay-Z concert and buying the latest t-shirt. You're just not a man yet, but you're not really a child.
Yeah, true.
In many cultures, they don't have that. But in the Western culture, they invented this whole adolescent thing that goes on and just keeps you spending money in a way, away from being serious and grounded, right? So we find that we had to kind of like design a mentoring program to kind of, instill these things, because many young inner city youth that possibly don't grow up with positive male role models, they're falling by the wayside, and we're getting into this, what they call it, pipeline to prison situation.
Yes,
so
that's something.
I'm working on a program to kind of interrupt that pipeline, to mash up that pipeline, basically. Try and get them seeing some different expressions of masculinity. Away from gang and on the end, like away from that side. So
bro.
There is exciting things that I do as well.
For me, I'm booking the man then. We're gonna come as a group, we're gonna come individually, because one of the things that really slowed down with me when I looked at counseling was like, I just didn't believe. And I hate making things about race, but I just didn't believe they understood when I would go to counseling and the white man's there. And he's great. And he was genuinely just actually very good at his job. I can never take that away. But I had this thing in the back of my head where it's like, do you truly understand when I'm telling you what the ends is, what growing up in the ends is like seeing your friend get stabbed at 13 years old, or do you, and he's not in my head, but I just wasn't convinced. So I'm grateful that there's more people like yourself out there and stuff like that, because sometimes you just want to feel like the person understands what it is to walk in your shoe. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
there is that element.
Absolutely.
What I want to talk, the first topic I want to kick into is, what is your view on this whole toxic masculinity thing? What does it
it's
mean?
funny you should say that, you know, it's funny you should say that, because I'm gonna do a quick cheeky plug, yeah. I've got a podcast series, It Takes Two, Emotional Insight TV. My first episode was on narcissism.
Okay.
I explored it with a good friend of mine and a mindfulness coach, Leonora Bennett. We talk about narcissism. The reason I brought it up, because those two words, narcissism and toxic masculinity, they have and toxic, everything is toxic now. They've become so overused, right? In my opinion, so overused that they've lost currency. You know, when something is a bit more exclusive and you pull it out, it's a diamond, or this is a gold, it's not common, so it's valuable, but it's worth. So, you know, when people used to say, for example, you know, this person's a narcissist, you know, back in the day, that was like a clinical that's how I understood it, as a clinical definition. Somebody's assessed them, it took a few weeks, a few meetings, right? And this person is a narcissist, he or she is a narcissist, right? You know how words enter the public domain, right?
Yeah.
So it enters the public domain. Although I'm talking about narcissism, but I think that toxic is, you know, quite related.
Has its roots in that kind of concept.
It's kind of interrelated to the same conversation, right?
Got you.
And then now it's entered into public speak, or should I say, you know,
public space,
right? But what I've noticed is it's kind of being gender orientated and weaponized. You don't really hear too many men saying that this woman was a narcissist, or this woman was toxic.
Even
we don't talk about toxic femininity.
Yeah, we don't. You
understand?
We really thought about it after they said toxic masculinity. Then we were like, well, there are some bad people then, because we didn't quite understand it when it first came into the environment. We didn't know, like you said, where some of these things could have its inception from. But men don't really talk about it. When I'm saying you're a toxic woman, like, people don't say that. That's not our lingo from where we come from anyway.
The first time I heard that somebody used the term toxic femininity, I was working on an NHS project, one of the managers on an NHS project, and another manager, because there's a lot of women, it's a female-dominated environment. No disrespect, a female-dominated environment, and there's a certain way that women kind of build, rival, kick off, like men can, when we're amongst ourselves. But I guess we just have a different pecking order. We kind of we respect hierarchy kind of quick. We work out whether we like or not who's the alpha, who's the leader, who's the it kind of. But women, their rivalries kind of is buzzing, is kicking off, and like. We was having this talk because we're two managers, so we're kind of having a debrief about some of the stuff that's going on with the staff. And I said, you know, there's a lot of women in it, you know. And she's like, I said, is that toxic femininity? She goes, you know something, we don't really never talk about it, but that's exactly what it is, Hugh. That's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? So bring it back to the toxic masculinity.
Right.
I think that it's being genderized and weaponized against men, because it's a kind of left wing, this whole feminist thing, and we're kind of in this new era, right? Where it's kind of a political era and it spills out into society. So, you know, toxic masculinity really was written by this academic. I can't remember the lady's name, McRae, but I think she was born physically as a woman, but changed to, you know, like
transitioned into, okay.
But however, there's a brother in America. He's a serious academic, Dr. T. Hassan Johnson. He talks about this. He kind of like breaks down this whole on his show where this term comes from. And it's actually was talking about toxic masculinity was really like, when we use the term sort of like white, Western, middle-class men, or, you know, those who are the levers of power in the Western world. That's what toxic masculinity was really about. It was about those in the global North and their the way they set up institutions and the way they operate. Men in the South, global South, so people of color, people from African descent, these societies, they were the opposite of toxic masculinity, because in terms of how our societies in, say, for example, Africa and different places, how men interact with women and the role they may play in family and how the genders interact, seen as more modeling, more child rearing, more interaction with the children. It wasn't really applied to people of color. But it's funny how it entered into as it comes into more popular speak now, it's something that I notice in the Black community is getting targeted left, right, and center. About, you know, and it's the simplest thing of, she broke up with her boyfriend. He was toxic. He was toxic, and he was a narcissist. And I wrote an article on Medium about this and saying that I believe that women in particular, are robbing themselves of an opportunity when relationships end based when they use this type of language. Because, for example, if two people, it was working, it was going somewhere, and then there's obviously people rub up against each other the wrong way.
The wrong way, yeah.
Deal, they get to a point in the road and they say, hey, I'm going east, you going west. Adios, right? This happens sometimes. It's
normal.
And that stuff, sometimes when you check for that person, that burn your skin, that hurts. You know what I mean? Big man will cry till all snot comes out his nose or bubbles. People, you hurt, right? But it's part of the process. And you kind of like look inside yourself and say, after you do your victim bit about what she did, and she was say to yourself, quiet corner of yourself, I'm trying to talk to her a bit of a way, or coming in late never really helped, or whatever it is you review in your mind, or something. Those are some of those things I don't think I need to carry with me into my next relationship. I need to drop that because, on a reflection, it wasn't helping me, and it's not gonna, help me to bond with somebody. And
for sure.
Future. But when females say he was a narcissist, it's like some Hollywood movie, like this guy had some sort of
some psychopath.
But then you rob yourself of any reflection, because it means when you start labeling, that means everything bad in a relationship was him.
It was them.
He's a narcissist. It speaks for itself.
So it's like, that's why it didn't work out, because he's a narcissist. I know him to be alone. It's like, but there's no reflection.
There's no self-reflection.
There's no self-reflection. You have to reflect.
So that's the danger of that weaponizing that time, because it becomes popular. It's just like butter off a hot knife.
So
that term now overused.
It's become now the colloquial term to describe men that are less than tasteful in that moment. If you're a man that does something that just distasteful, you're toxic straight away. But the dynamics of human relations means that we're just trying to find understanding constantly. And sometimes I may misunderstand you, might misunderstand me. And where there's ego involved, I guess that kind of always complicates things, because now, like you said, people just farm out the responsibility to the other person, like it's your fault, so I don't have to deal with whatever's bothering me and what you know what I'm saying. And it's just the easier way, because I've always thought that maybe people feel ashamed when they have to look at themselves, because I read a book about, I'm sure you know this guy, Joe Dispenza. Have you met? So Joe Dispenza he has a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And Dr. Joe Dispenza, so instead of SA, it's a ZA, Joe Dispenza. So he's wrote a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I'm a big fan of his because he talks about something, the gap theory, saying how people perceive themselves versus who they actually are. And our job is to close that gap as much as possible. But people stay right here. So there's nothing wrong with people. Like sometimes you tell people like, yo, do you know you do this? And they're like, no, I don't. Because they've never looked at it as, bro, you shout all the time unnecessarily. And the first thing they do is shout to tell you, no, they don't shout. You know what I'm saying? You shout sometimes, no, I don't, bro. And they go off and like, bro, I'm sorry that the ego and the identity you've taken on is not allowing you to see that, but this might be a thing of why she's feeling that way. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I realize Joe Dispenza really phenomenally explores that idea, and going into understanding that what we call the identity, or what we identify with, is more of your avatar than it is who you are. Like every thought doesn't belong to you kind of concept. So so when I hear toxic masculinity or toxic femininity, are you saying like people are clinically diagnosing people because they don't want to self-reflect and deal with the reality? Is that really the whole scope of it?
I would say that I don't even know if it's like, it's not I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think what's dangerous is that it's unconscious. I think that the fact that the term has entered into popular speak, and it's kind of easy
to just reach.
Do you know what I mean? Because most of us as human beings, we can be victims, whether it's romantic relationships or family relationships, or everybody got a horror story. Everybody got most people, they got some long story. I grew up in England, but my elder siblings grew up in the Caribbean, or I was the one that came here. I'm the youngest, I was bullied. I'm the oldest, I didn't get to go uni. Somebody's always got some story, or I didn't get enough hugs, or whatever. We've all got our sob story. And some people, like, obviously they've been through genuine trauma and that, so I'm not making light of that. But just like in all relationships, I feel like in the romantic relationships, we give and we take and we get from. But I think that it's just like in a kind of unconscious way. I think that these ideas from outside of society, from think tanks or from these ideologues, they seep into popular speak through the medium, through social media, and then they come into our world. So people are aligning themselves with certain ideologies that they haven't like read and necessarily said, I've read this person's works and I feel like I want to come from this position. It's more like it just seeps into popular speak and they just start to come out with these ideas. And that's what I think. I don't think it's
a
that people
conditioning
directly doing it intentionally. I think it's drip into popular speak. The word toxic, the word narcissist, now it's fashionable, now it's flavor. It's been a few articles in Psychology Today and a few articles here and there, and then it's on everybody's lips.
Everyone's trying to define it.
It's easy. And the reason why it becomes so appealing, because it exonerates that person of self-reflection.
Of any responsibility.
He's a narcissist, right? So there's nothing about my inability to open up, my little unhealed little girl inside that wasn't able to trust, and that impacted. How did that?
How the relationship went?
There's less of all those complicity. We call it.
Yeah.
It's kind of simple. He's a narcissist. What else? That's it. To know, right?
He's toxic.
Yeah, he's toxic. He's a guy.
It sums up everything they feel. That word. That's why it's so dangerous. It seems to not add any context. It doesn't provide any clarity. It just says when people say toxic, everyone feels they assume that they know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, yeah. It was therefore. It almost comes like a herd thing. If you stand in a room of men and everyone's focusing on one man saying he's going through a breakup, like, bro, what happened? Bro, I just found it very toxic. But most of the room just kind of understands what he's talking about, even though that understanding is not really rooted in anything factual. It's just like, oh, toxic. No one seems to question or ask someone like, what do you mean they were toxic? People kind of like toxic. Oh, okay, bro, sorry about that, bro. And it seems to be that.
Sorry to hear that, man. Sorry to hear.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Sorry. Well, I think with the male version that we have is less clinically based, and we just say, although it's related to mental health, we just say, boy, she was mad, you know.
Yes, bro. She's mad.
Nuts.
We always like to label women crazy. Why is that? We always like, because I thought that when I used to say as a young man, I just feel like because I didn't understand the reason for this. And who does that? And if my logic couldn't match the situation to make sense of it, then you must be crazy. Because a normal human being.
You said that word logic. You said that word.
Yeah.
Logic. Because I think if I be all right. Let's be frank. Let's just be frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
My perspective is that women have the potential and often display the ability to be super analytical, right, and super intelligent, matching men, match, right, in the workplace, right, in academia. But take that same woman with all those gifts and put her with a man that she loves and she's got feelings for, and watch that logic evaporate and watch logic leave the building. when she phones him and his phone goes to voicemail or whatever, the pet peeves what people have in relationships or whatever.
The demons that come out.
Going to see his ex, going to see his children, but is his ex, what's going on? Is she in the room when you go to see your son, or where you guys sit? When that gets triggered, logic leaves the building. So then that's why I think that sometimes men, because we're still holding on to our logic, being analytical in and out of the workplace, we're kind of like, she's mad because we're not really appreciating how she's being triggered emotionally. Yes. That's the kind of like the miscommunication.
That's definitely that.
We're not speaking to say, so not that they're mad, they're emotional and like they're feeling, I feel insecure right now. I feel a certain
because of things you're doing. So
I feel these different things.
Yeah.
So then, the man's role is to more like make her feel secure. But sometimes we go off into our headspace.
That's the
problem. So speaking from our heart to her heart. Do you know what I mean?
Because it feels like constantly
we go into our headspace to say logically why it's not a problem, and we miss.
No, that's true. That's something that's very quite common, really, because you're making us conscious of some of these scenarios. And bruv, if you've been in a relationship, multiple relationships, you've at least experienced where because you did not understand the person, going off into your head and saying, well, this person's crazy, because why would you do that? Like, who sits down but it feels like we have to women need constant reassurance to some degree. But I find that when I talk to other men, they find it exhausting, because from when I talk to my circles or different circles of men, it's kind of like, I can't be telling you 10 times a day when I'm getting attacked left, right, and center from all forms of the world, where I don't even know how I feel right this moment. And you're telling me, abandon all of that, just to feed to your need. And I realized that triggers men because it's like, not right now. Some men just lock off the phone, like, listen, not now. Because you're not even caring about my circumstances. You don't even know if I'm on the floor shot. You know what I mean? Or my favorite text that I know that annoys a lot of my friends that we get that text, you know, the fun is over, is we need to talk. That we need to talk is almost like when you was a kid and your mom calls you a certain way and you're like running through your mind, what did I do? Did I leave the dishes? Did I tidy up? I did everything. You start going through all these mental things. Like if my woman sends me, we need to talk. Wherever I'm at, the fun is finished. Whatever fun I'm having is come to a standstill.
Body, that text can make a grown man's body go limp. Like it lose a certain level of energy, can just leave the body. Because a man feels like, boy,
you're trying to have fun, but you're just
dead. Cloud now has entered over. A dark cloud has entered over. We don't know where this is going, but this is not.
This is not great. Because last time I checked, anytime a woman says we need to talk, it's never about how to improve your life. It's always about some shit you did wrong. So that's the societal thing that seems to come up.
That's the doghouse. That's the doghouse. Code word for the doghouse.
I tell men all the time, listen, my grandfather gave me some really amazing advice when I was getting married. He said, listen, the room for error, it should be bigger than the room for love. And I didn't quite understand that until I got into marriage. Like, you have to understand you're growing with another human being. Your expectation, your opinion, and all this stuff can be valued or undervalued at any given time, depending on where you lot at. So make sure the space for error, make sure you understand there's going to be errors, because your errors in that space, not just hers as well. Your errors are going to be there. And I've always taken that with me. How to pick a partner is my first topic. How to pick a partner. What are people missing when they pick a partner? Because I figure one of the things you touched on also at the conversation was like people trying to fit this person into their ideologies, even though the person is clearly not compatible, but the sex is great, or something's great. He has money, or she has a big bum. Or now we take snippets of the things we like and try to form a real relationship out of it. How do you pick a partner? What type of things that men need to think about and women need to think about when picking a partner?
I think it's quite a wide question in a sense, because it's going to be so biased. Everybody's got their own tick list of like negotiables, no way, man, or possibly, you know, like not this but that, you know, like whether it's body type, if it's for men, but you know, she's got a low body count. People don't like to speak about those things in polite company, but we're just going to keep it real. Yeah. Just for clarity's sake.
Bro, so it's funny, brother. That was my next question, was like, what is the issue about body count? Because literally I was going to ask, what kind of principles? Because there's universal principles.
This is some new word, you know. These young people use this word and I've got caught up in it, like body counts. Fam, the body count. And I'm like, okay.
I've heard young men speak about it, like, it's like they can't, I see them vibrating. They're like, bro, like, if a girl's got a certain amount of body count, I can't do it. I'm like, I understand, you don't understand. It's fine. But when picking a partner, and I'm not talking about what you want in them, I'm talking about things you need to consider just as a human being. There's some universal principles, you know?
I think it really starts from self, in the sense of where am I right on my journey? Where am I on my journey? Like, really and true, in all honesty, am I ready for a relationship? And what type of relationship am I looking for? If I'm looking for something serious, long-term commitment, leading towards marriage, things of that nature, am I really in that place?
So cool, be clear on exactly what your motive is. Okay.
Have I explored my demons, right? First of all, or maybe I haven't, because we're all a work in progress, but I'm at a certain place where I know what I go on in there. I know what my shadows is. I know my dark side and my shadow side.
Yeah, for sure.
And working with, so I could meet this person. I could be meeting different people, meeting different women and just conversating about, okay, this looks like it could go somewhere, but I need to put this out there. I don't even mention this on a first date or first meeting, but you know, I've been conversating with this person, met a few times. I feel like there's something there. I may need to sort of share. This is some of my skeletons, for want of a better term, so that they know what they're standing up for and they know where I'm coming from. So those are some of the things I think that are really important, like basically the work on ourselves. And the other thing is, are we intentional, right, about wanting a relationship, wanting love, wanting the commitment, wanting that person? Because we can be very guarded, right? And where some of us, sometimes men and women, can be kind of guilty of, because of our guardedness, we're not honest with ourselves. We really want love, right? But what we're going to do is get into a whole hookup culture and I'm not looking for something serious, but deep down kind of hoping maybe I can kind of, you know, stumble into something that this one ends up lingering. Yeah, and we just chemistry. No, you got to be real with yourself. Do you know what I mean? I think it's actually more important for women, because sometimes women think, I don't want to scare a man off. So what I will do is not mention all those things what I really want in terms of marriage, commitment. I want to start a family, because, you know, it might scare him off. But my thing is like, you don't really want to be hanging around with somebody a year and a half, 2 years, because you talk about body count. I want to talk about body clock. You understand? You got a body, you ain't got time to waste.
You're counting more than bodies.
If anything serious is going to scare him off, you're saving yourself time wasters. We don't get time back. We get money back. We could lose money and make money back. But
not time.
Don't get back on this journey. Time is
complete minus, constant minus every day.
So if you need to be real and it gets rid of, it's like garlic or like a cross vampire, it gets rid of those. Get rid of them.
Repellent.
You know, okay, there's only 2 contenders or there's this one part, then let it be that. But don't create illusion of there's all these different people interested. They're not interested. They want to, you understand? There's a different, you get me? People mix up. We're going to come to talk about sex, but sex is one of those things which is quite nuanced, because it's not just the act, but it depends on who. Then it's going to have a different meaning. I think that's what I spoke about on the Queen's platform.
I think sex changes things. I think sex changes and alters your perception of the person, especially if it's good. Because somehow I wonder, why is it hard for people to be honest when we meet? Why is it so, like, I think back and I realized that why wouldn't I just say at the gate, this is why do people present a version of them? What are we doing with this? Like, how do people get a grip on that? Be more honest, because you talked about your intention. Be clear. Ask yourself, do I really want this right now? Can I accommodate? Because relationships take time. Do I have an excess of time to be donating to this? All these thoughts that we don't think about, because this hookup culture is ruining, to me, as some of the fabric of family a little bit, because I feel like because sex changes your perception of someone from just in my opinion, nothing professional about it, but it just changes people's perception, because I've seen people fall in love based off just that, or just getting a full-blown relationship based off just the sex was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, so my thing is, why is it so hard for people to be honest in that date, not interaction, just the first date? She agrees to go out with you, you like her, she likes you, let's see where this is. Why don't we be more honest? Or am I just missing the point of maybe you're supposed to get honest down the line? Or is it possible to be honest up front?
At all, but I just think it's very difficult because of how society impacts probably our you know, the type of background that we come from, the family that we come from. We've got religious, you know, different influences, different scripts that influence our mindset. But one thing that a lot of people will carry into, you know, the dating scene or the relationship scene, right, is a fear of judgment and a fear of rejection. And that means people fear being rejected. So I feel that's why people kind of like, they just reveal a little bit at a time. As opposed to, some people find it hard to be vulnerable, to be real and say, look, this is where I'm at, man. This is what I want, or this is my history. You know, like some people feel like they might scare people off or be judged and be rejected. And it's you know, rejections are a very difficult thing.
Yeah,
I think for men, we're probably a bit more equipped for rejection, in a sense that because most societies, we have to initiate. And so probably one of the most important things that you learn as a young man in terms of pursuing women and relationships is learning how to take rejection. Because until you ain't built for this thing. If you're going to get rejected, you're not going to speak to the next girl. But you imagine you're a teenager, you get rejected, you get roasted, or you know, you get embarrassed, and you lose your confidence that you're not going to speak to the next girl for 4 months. This is not going to work out for you. This is not going to work out. So one of the most important things that we learn as men at some point is to sort of just take it on the chin. You know.
Yeah, you learn from early, just
whatever.
Like it's a numbers game.
Moving.
She may not like you, but you find your type somewhere. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you're right, judgment is a massive thing. And people do fear judgment and rejection based on social conditioning and different things of that nature. But the next thing I was going to ask is love language. What is that, number one? How do you define it? And how does one, if you're unconscious, how do you start to figure out what your partner's love language is?
So love languages, Gary Chapman, a counselor, I think from the United States, he kind of like devised this kind of concept of saying that people speak or communicate in an unspoken way. They communicate, unspoken communication, right? And it's how they express their love for their significant other, right? And that usually people express their what they value in terms of love language. They initiate that. Let me explain. Let me break down what the love languages are. That it might make it a little bit clearer. Don't think I'm making it clear. So there's the idea of, for example, quality time. Some people prize quality time.
Yeah.
Some people prize touch. Some people prize words of affirmation. Some people prize acts of service, or some people prize gifts. So those are the 5 basic love languages. The idea is that oftentimes people will express what they need by kind of initiating that love language. So you might meet a woman, you're dating her, and she comes back Monday, she comes to your house, she's got like a little Nike t-shirt or something. I'm not really, because you're not fussed about gifts, but every time she comes, she always brings you some little drink, some Lucozade, because like possibly her love language is gifts. So you need to switch on.
Okay, so she's telling you by doing it.
Yeah, not intentionally, but it's just the way she's expressing. So, hey, homie, that would work for her. You know what I mean? He's not necessarily going to buy her a diamond, but maybe when you go to a house, carry a rose one, every rose, buy a bunch of, carry one every time, man. Carry one every little things.
Little things. Yeah, that add up. It's true. No, you're right. I think with love language, when I was reading that book, I was like a whole world opened up to me. Like a whole world, because I didn't understand it. I just thought, you like what you like, I like what I like, but I didn't realize that being able to hone in on that love language is super useful. It strengthens the relationship in so many ways, because this is when women turn around and say to men, so men listening, when a woman turns around to say, oh, you don't really care, you're thinking, bruv, what's she talking about? Your love language, her love language, you're not speaking it. So to you, bruv, I'll make sure the bills are paid. I sit down, I don't go anywhere.
I've seen that. I've seen it many times with men. They're doing overtime and they're buying expensive stuff or payments and all kind of stuff. Right? But when you listen clearly, you're saying, no, but her love language is time. You'd be better off cutting down that overtime and getting home early. Do you know what I mean? That might be seen as, that will be better received. But sometimes if you're not clicking and you don't get it, then you might be actually putting in a lot of effort, but feeling that your efforts are not being appreciated. So that's why, and the love language test is online and it's free. So it's a fun thing. If you just met somebody, if you're already serious, whatever, you know what I mean? Or just, you might even be just, single, but it's just good to know your own love language. So you can just do the test.
I've done that all the time, where I'm scratching my tail and man, I'm like, bruv, I work hard. I don't go anywhere. I do what I'm told. What's going on? Like, that's just us. Like, what's going on? Please make sense of this. She's crazy. Here we go again. She's crazy. We don't understand.
There you go.
Crazy. She's moving mad. Man, we're all trying to figure it out. We're all freaking have no experience. We're just figuring out like, bro, this is mad, bro. You know what happened to me the other day? And because we don't understand it, but it was the love language conversation. When we finally had it, we're like, oh my God. Everyone just sitting there like, oh, you know what I mean? Just little understanding her act of service or quality time. And you know what I mean? Or some man feel like, I spend mad time with you, she doesn't appreciate it. It's not her love language, my dude. She appreciates when you buy gifts. Just I'm saying, you're always coming home empty-handed, but you're spending time and So learning that love language was definitely a game changer. You know what I'm saying? That was definitely a game changer for me. And when men get into that space, I wonder apart from just the love language side of things, why do you think relationships start to, when two people love each other, people love each other, you've been around and that these people love each other. Where do you think things start to deteriorate between people? What kind of things, habits, or things we neglect or things we stop doing? Because people will say, oh, that person changed. I'm like, you must have known. She'd be like, no, I didn't know, bro. This is new. How does it all play out? How does it all make sense? Because that's one of the things that was just to baffle us. Like, what starts to go wrong apart from the obvious? People say, oh, well, you stop caring, but you love someone. What makes someone that loves someone stop doing the things or being present in a certain way? Like, because you still love the person. If you say you stop loving the person, that's different. But I'm trying to understand, how do you say you love someone and you actually put the effort in, but somehow you've maybe backslide, and we're trying to explore like how does love and constantly making the wrong decisions fall in place. We thought love was the only thing we needed. That's what we were taught by Hollywood, right?
So people often use this cliche about communication, yeah. But sometimes people are talking all the time, but I think what it is that they lose connection, and that's the difference between, you know, when people are speaking, there's not that they don't talk about the issues, but the way they address those issues, right, it breaks connection. So, say for example, there's four pivotal things that really are destructive in a relationship, right? In terms of when people are communicating, it's criticism, right? When you actually criticize that person, people don't take criticism good, and it's a difference between when you criticize what a person's done, sometimes tactfully, or even they feel like they themselves are being criticized, like they are the problem.
We got to explore that, Hugh, because I think that's one of the common things. I think as a man, learning through my relationship, there's some of the common stuff is, what is criticism? Because I think what is played out seems like more perspective of someone intentionally trying to give a feedback to something they feel may be detrimental if they don't, because if I love you, I'm going to tell you, versus you're criticizing someone. How do we explore the difference between telling someone feedback that they may not want to hear versus you're criticizing someone with some sort of intention?
All right, then. So they're going to flip it, because usually it's the men that do the overtime. Let's say we're breaking gender norms, right? Not young lady, young guy, right? My dude, right? His woman is doing some whole heap of overtime. She's chasing her promotion and everything like that, right? And it's affecting their quality time. His love language could be quality time, right?
Right.
Now it's different if he says to her, "Do you know something? You've been like doing overtime. Look, Thursday night you worked late. You worked on Saturday when you didn't have to, right? You're kind of selfish, you know. When I think about it, you're selfish, you know." That's different from when he says to her, "Do you know that I used to like it when you used to come home early, and we even though we're both busy, that we would set aside these particular times to do these certain romantic, you know, their rituals, whatever it is." And he would name out the goals kind of things I like, so we get to go cinema and, you know, come back and like. It's different from when he says yourself, names what she's done, what he doesn't like, and calls her selfish. So it's kind of like she feels criticized now. How's she going to react to that? Yeah. So then there's a chance, you know, when he says, "I like when we do those," if he takes a second approach, she might be open to say, "Do you know, I've kind of been aware of that." She's open to kind of like process. I have been spending a lot of time away. How it's going to affect us. And look, I need you to understand, I really want this promotion. You know, I've been working for it, but you know, they can kind of negotiate and get an understanding, innit? But if he comes at her the first way where you're selfish, point his finger in her face, she's going to get defensive.
Yeah.
So she's not open to no criticism, no analysis, no self-exploration. That's it. You're attacking me. And when we feel attacked, we kind of retaliate. Bit of a human, you know. Like
is that a natural? Is it a natural thing? Is retaliation a natural thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it does happen without thought.
I don't know. When I mean natural in the sense like, we kind of like socialize into that. That's normal. That is normal.
Okay.
That takes a lot of a level of, I don't know, patience, self-confidence, not even self-confidence, but like patience and self-awareness, where even if you're attacked, you can be kind of calm. You have to be in the right headspace as well. Because even many of us that have like done a whole set of work on self-awareness and all manner of things, depending on depending on what day of the week or what mood you're in, you get kind of caught off guard. Yeah. So I mean, I could say that even as a trained counselor and psychotherapist, there's been times when I've been married and I've in the past, like, the missus has gone on one, my ex has gone on a bender or something like that, and I'm in a good spot and I can kind of be in that headspace to, but what is it you need? And I could be Mr. Counselor, but I'm a human being, in it. So if I'm in the wrong headspace and I've got things going on and I'm worried about this money thing, and you start, I might snap in it, like verbally or react. So that's just a human nature. When we feel attacked, it's easy for us to kind of like get. What about the time when what about you then? What about you then? What about you?
Because you're attacking me and my ego and. Fair
almost
enough,
like in counseling, they've got this thing called inner child, and it's almost like their inner child kind of triggers your inner child. And it's no longer adults reasoning.
It's too childish.
Yeah, a hurt little girl and a hurt little boy kind of like in the playground having a spat. And that's how it plays out. When people are in love and they really rewind the tape about the things they argue, it's so childish. It's embarrassing, really.
It's so childish. I think about stuff I said, I'm like, really? That was so stupid and childish.
Yeah.
If you reflect, it is your inner child.
It's your inner child,
Trying
and
to
that's
guard
a
itself.
wounded child. Yeah. What about you then?
Yeah.
What about you then? But it's really just defending. Like I'm under attack. What that means is I'm under attack now. I don't feel safe.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna lash out.
It puts people in that place. Something I've been exploring is also, do you think it's possible or it's makes sense that people are responsible for each other's happiness to a degree? Or do you think it's your own responsibility when people start saying stuff like, you don't make me happy, or I'm not happy, and it's your fault that I'm not happy? I've been having new thoughts about it, such as I've been thinking to myself, it's my responsibility to make myself happy. And I started to believe that I don't know how you make someone happy, because if someone is not on being happy, no matter what you do, they'll find fault in that thing because they are internally unhappy. That's become my new assumption. And I tried to experiment, and and like 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm responsible for my happiness. It's not her job to make me happy. It's not her job to make me feel like a man. It's not her job. Take all that responsibility away from her and put it back on me. And everything became 20 times better, because now I could calmly react, because I'm not looking to you to provide that no more. I'm providing it for myself. So how I feel is no longer constantly triggered by what you do and don't do. I can actually take a step back and be like, okay, well, why is it bothering you? And just try to understand, because now I'm happy about my team. I'm gonna put my thing aside, deal with you, go back to my happiness, because I've already learned to hold myself back. But some of my man them will be like, no, then why be in a relationship? Then if I can make myself happy, then what's the point? Like, I want someone to be happy with or make me happy. I want something. And my position has always been expectation kills relationship. That's what my assumption has been. Because I feel like if you have an expectation, I call it conditional, because if the conditions in which I'm happy require you to be a certain way, and you're a human being, which means you're probably not going to always be that certain way. Now I'm unhappy in your unhappiness. Can a relationship really survive off of that? Because the underlying thing here is that I don't think a relationship can survive off of expecting things from your partner. Because people talk about love language, and if you can't do this and I do that, because when we listen to the women at the Queen's Walk, that was the energy I got slightly. Was like, then you might need to divorce. I'm like, whoa, the D word. Ooh. Why is it that simple that if you don't get what you want, he's not fulfilling this love tank, and he refuses to change, then the love doesn't exist here anymore. But I'm just like, whoa, I'm not here to be exactly what you want me to be. But what's your thoughts anyway? That's something I've been sharing with my wife.
That is proper interesting, because this is a big one that goes, like with the seasons, it changes, and no man is supposed to be here for you, and so does he fill you up? Watch some of these things, or listen, does he fill you up? You think, well, that sounds is that an innuendo or something? Does
he fill you up? I'm like, we are talking about relationships, right? I was like, bro,
like, what the heck?
And they're so quick to dismiss in a certain way, and not to even critique like that. I'm just saying I'm seeing a pattern somewhere, and I'm just curious to see if you've seen that pattern where the advice women tend to give each other always misses some underlying universal principles. It can't be, if you're not getting what you want from him, if you're not fulfilled, if he's not, it's always about what the man doesn't do, then he may not be fit for you. You might have to be strong to move on. I'm like, this is a marriage. What are we talking about here? It shouldn't be so simple, because it's that conditional thing that I've tried to get out of my marriage, which is, I don't care how you are. My love should not waver based on your condition or our conditioning. But yeah, what's your thoughts anyway?
Now, there's a couple. There's the side about the get moving on as well. I want to definitely come back to that, because that comes with an expensive price that a lot of women in the community are kind of finding out, especially the more mature women. Right. Mature in age. But yeah, I think my perception of it, and kind of coming from a clinical perspective, is that you are responsible for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah, your ambitions, your drives, your desires, your reflections, your fantasies, your imagination, all these different things are you as an individual. That you're responsible for that. But you're interdependent. You're not dependent or independent. You're not one or the other, because that some people are totally dependent. Some people are totally dependent, right? And it's like they're need. When we say, "Oh, she's so needy," because everything. She's on the phone. You just need emotional need. Everything. You got to be like carrying this person, which is very, we use the term needy, colloquially, right? Or you got this kind of person who's a bit cold and independent, like they don't really need nothing, you know. I said, let me buy you one of that. No, I'm all right. Don't don't get it. You know, they don't need nothing. They're almost aloof. They're not emotionally available.
Yeah.
Right. That's another extreme. So interdependent is like, you know, like in the sense that I'm responsible for my happiness, right? But like I get so much from her. It enhances me so much. It helps me to go to the next level. Not without her, I'm a cripple, but but I get so much. So this is, I'm going to invest in this relationship. And likewise, she's a person that is strong in her own right and clear and has clarity in her own right. But I just bring something to the table that takes her to the next level. And so this thing is good for both of us. It works, and that's how it's supposed to be. But I think it's too much pressure to put on either person. You know, like they're responsible for my happiness. You know what I mean? Like life, career, social life, family, extended family. There's all these different things going on where things can be good. And you can say, you know something, right now, like I've got some issues in my relationship, but that doesn't like nullify the happiness in my life, because it's not, my whole life isn't defined by my marriage, for example, or my relationship. So there's some stuff that we need to work and we need to talk and we need to get to, I want to get to a certain point where it's good again, because we're going through a rough patch. It's not the thing of like, you know what? I'm not happy because this relationship is this aspect of the relationship. We're going through some stuff. So you know what? We think about what's out there still, you know, because I think Tinder and TikTok, and you know, like, I'm getting another month or so, but after that, I got to have a contingency plan, because I think a lot of modern women have been stitched up, man. I think there's a culture, the society, as I said, some of these ideas of feminism, not equal wages and not equal choice. I'm not talking about that, but you know, these kind of anti-men and this kind of women is everything and the whole wide world. They've been kind of like they've been stitched up, man. They've been bumped. Like obviously some of them jump out of relationships when they did have Mr. Right, but maybe needed to work through it. And they thought they thought there was some cue of, I don't know, like NBA millionaire basketball players and, you know, guys with six-pack working in the city on six figures, just queuing up. You know, they're just going to go down to the next wine bar or something, or click left and click. And these guys are just, you know, these high-value, men are just waiting around for them.
Yeah.
And then they end up like say, you know something, not really, you know, actually. Not really. It's just be here with my two kids. And as a mum now, 40 odd, you know, put a bit of weight on, like how I used to look when I was 25, when I first met their dad and stuff like that. Going back out into that market, it's brutal out there.
Yeah.
It's brutal. There'll be interest. There'll be male interest.
Oh, there'll be interest, but for the reasons that you may not agree with.
There'll be a night, for a phone call. Yeah. Oh, there'll be interest, but not interest beyond like seeing you as a person. You know what I'm trying to say? Or not that's impossible, but I'm saying it's not as click of the finger as it might seem.
Yeah, because that's what men too. Like even the men that jump and think it's a different girl every day. I'm like, listen, brother, you get me? It's not that, because the thing you're trying to fulfill yourself with is not the way you're going about it. And most times, you know, sex becomes this obsession slightly, and I think men can get carried away with that. But there's different, I'm sure, psychological reasons. Biological reasons. Testosterone is just a monstrous hormone. And people that may not understand that, it is a monstrous hormone. I use the word monstrous to make people understand that same testosterone can make a man want to die for you, and that same testosterone can make a man want to kill you. It's the same element, right? It's the same element. That testosterone can do a lot, and it can do F4. That same testosterone can make somebody.
If it's harnessed, we've got skyscrapers, we've got civilizations, we got pyramids, and I got this theory that the Leaning Tower of Pizza and the pyramids and the Mayan temples, everything that we see from ancient civilization up to now with the skyscrapers and the train. You know, half that heterosexual men, you know, that's basically trying to show women that we're saying one. It's like impressing women. It's based on hypergamy. Like, I need to be this status man. I need to do this. I will build this bridge and the engine. I know I will get the type of woman I want based on my profile and this is what like you said, the testosterone, that kind of like drives men, isn't it?
Drives men to be ambitious, to want more.
We want them to feel secure and feel like, we're worthy. So there is that element to it as well. There is that. But but getting back to what you said, jumping, men can jump too early, or, you know, the grass isn't that green as people might think when they've got a significant other that they care about, but they're just not getting what they want at that juncture.
Yeah.
It would seem better.
You know, you said so real, You just said so real that's making me laugh. It's like, people think they've been in a relationship for like 15 years, right? 10, 15 years. somehow they think time has stood still outside. Like they don't understand in that 15 years, Tinder, Match, all this, there's young people out there too that might take with each other different people's fantasies. So like, are you pre and you've been someone for 15 years? Like, do you even know how to date again? Do you understand that you've merged with somebody and you've been completely yourself, that you don't even know what people are looking for? You know what I'm saying? I feel like people miss that. They think it's the same as 15 years ago, or 10 years ago. They don't understand the world is leaked. You know what I mean? So if you start dating
And
someone in
50 years,
19,
5 years in the modern world is a long time,
it's a
Sometimes,
long
you know what I
time.
mean? Have you never walked past a certain place and you think, when you come back, you see some big block of flats and you think,
All day, new builds. You're
it's
like,
like
when
a
did this
year I ain't
happen?
been up here, you know what I mean? It was some empty shrubland and you drive past or walk past, after a year, there's
I'll
a
say
big
this as
complex
well.
there.
If I
Things
ask
move
this,
on.
before I explore this part, I'm gonna say this because it's my disclaimer. I'm part of a fraternity called Black Men Don't Cheat. I'm an initiate. So when I ask this question, it's just so I want to give my women not an excuse, not some reason to go by, but an actual, sound psychological understanding of the mind space of the male, because that's something that women are obsessed with. It's almost a deal breaker in a lot of women's situations. What pushes men to cheat, in your opinion?
That's a deep question because there's so many different reasons. I was talking about this last night actually.
And a
And
man
some
could
of
be
the
in a
more
committed
some of the
relationship and all that.
some of the more serious reasons. When I say, I mean, it's all serious in terms of the impact because
Yeah.
the person on the
If
receiving
someone
end,
gets hurt.
it's all serious. Yeah, it's no joke. These type of these behaviors cause real pain and like really
Real
damage people.
traumatic pain,
Yeah,
in fact.
yeah, literally trauma, like
Not
proper
trauma pain.
trauma. Yeah, it can damage. And even if it's repeat offenders, like where they've given that person a chance against all advice from the from the crew, from the mom and
people with high
everybody, all the
standing that
females,
they care
from the
about. Yeah.
clan. The matriarchs have said, "Do away with this man, behead him." And he's no, because of love, I'll give him another. I'll let him back in, and then the man do damage, real damage. But getting back to some of the reasons why, I think some of the reasons why it could be to do with culture, and I don't just mean culture as in ethnic culture, but culture is in the culture that person was raised in. Like what kind of men were they socialized around, and was that a norm? Is that something that they was exposed to and that was a norm? So it's like learned behavior and they're just modeling. This is what men do. That's one. Some people have actually been through sexual molestation, so they have some very challenging sexual habits. Just like a woman that might be sexually molested, which is at a young age, and it leads to her being promiscuous, or has affected her ideas about sex. So the same thing happens to men, but lots of times boys are basically, it is abuse, but we don't, I'm talking in a heterosexual sense. It's not even like a male pedophile trouble in interfering with a boy, but I'm saying sometimes there's young boys that have been introduced, seen stuff, been brought into sort of sexual scenarios with older females. But we don't really think of it as abuse. We don't even use that word. We don't use that word.
But that's also toxic femininity.
But that's a female, that's abuse.
That's abuse.
And then that will affect that can very have a imprint on that young man's that child that grows into a man's sexuality as well, in terms of what sex means to him, and the ideas of certain to do with integrity and loyalty and what it means to this woman and what he's sort of struggling and wrestling with and his psyche. So there's even those kind of reasons. And some of it is just wanting their cake and having it too, just not having discipline. Yeah, just not having discipline, having that integrity to say, I made a contract with this person, and I'm the same person. Integrity is about not when you're around and I believe in these ideas, but when you're not around, I believe in these ideas based on principle, based on my principle, not because availability and will I get away with it, won't I get away with it, but because it's not me.
Are black men are we slightly sexually active? Are we hypersexual to a degree as well? Because the way we like to do this thing is generational almost, and that's the only reason I asked. It seems to be generational.
I would say, when you want to know about a culture or civilization, like you can look at politics, you can look at their economics, but look at their art, man. And if you look at our performing art, it's very sexual compared to others. And I don't mean it as it's not me throwing black people under the bus or nothing. It's just being descriptive.
It's what it is.
Like, yeah. Our music, our art, the way that many of the dances that we have are erotic, and that's even with class and with taste, or with ratchet and sleazy.
Ratchetness.
But regardless, at the end of the day, but it is still, there's a sexual element. And there's sex is healthy, and sex is, you know, there's a healthy side of it, but then there is that ratchet and kind of does sex represent to you like is it pornographic, and does sex represent to you like self-soothing, almost like you went through stuff, and like how people get food addiction or they self-medicate with alcohol? Are you numbing something when you know, because the way even some of the language that sometimes can be, I get a beat, and you're thinking like, but when you listen closely, you think, are you talking? You could have just been with a doll, or it don't sound like human interaction. It doesn't sound like a human transaction. It didn't. Or relationship.
There's no personal touch to it.
Yeah. So it's like, but there's, you know, it represents different things to different people, and I think that's why I'm making that point on the podcast.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, sorry, you know, the Queen's meeting, I made that point. I was trying to say that. And there's a lot of shame that's been pushed on heterosexual men about our libido, about having a healthy sex drive and stuff like that, right? So a lot of men are feeling, you know, kind of repressed, or, you know, like it's almost like we can't even open our mouth about it in the public space and discourse. You know, men want too much sex, and like you're fickle almost, or you know, it's just what a relationship means to you. But my point was, and I maintain this point, is that because many men have that capacity to almost like portion off themselves like a mercenary. If this is a casual thing, men can be very distant and be sexual, and it have no emotional residue. There's no, I'm gonna end up falling in love with her by accident. No, she is X in my head. I've categorized her, and we just do this physical thing.
Well, women can do the same, no?
I think to a lesser degree, though. I mean, obviously there's women that are like, for example, prostitutes and stuff like that, but they always have some rules, often have rules that, like, you know, I don't kiss the John, or I don't do certain things they won't allow. But I'm saying men can just really cut themselves off, I think. And be different about that in a kind of promiscuous way that I think that many women don't have that capacity, or not wired, they don't lean that way. They care about a person, they think about they've got one room in it, and it's so that this relationship can possibly bring a child in it, so that this man has to be kind of worthy. Obviously there's deviations of that, but that's more of a starting point for a female, right? But I'm saying that men can cut themselves off like that, but when it comes to that woman that's on the pedestal,
the one that they've chosen,
that woman, she's not any woman, that woman, sex means love. That's like a love language in itself. Touch, sex, that's where the man goes to, like, it's like going to a temple or something. It's like something holy.
No, women don't see it as that. They really look at it as like, we just want to say, I'm like, nah, this is different. Like, it's not the same. A man could have sexual encounters with plenty of women in his life until he finds the one that he wants to build a family with. Then that sex is a whole different. The chemicals in the brain change completely.
It's something different.
It's something different. It's not the same pathway of how they think. Is you're not an object. You're a real living thing that they're exploring, because this means more than that. You know what I mean? We give in that sense. And I think that was powerful that you said that, because I think a lot of women weren't even ready to hear that. For years, they've been conditioned, especially by other women in the family, other women friends, to think like, he wants to have sex 6 days a week and have to have a job, but never sit down and try to figure out, like, what is this? Ask him, talk to him. What's up? If you don't understand it, that is, if you're just, and it's bothering you, obviously communicate in that sense, find out what's going on. And sometimes, like something you mentioned earlier in the podcast, which is that feeling of vulnerability doesn't always sit well, especially with men as well as women. But with us, our reactions are a bit more in denial-ish to a degree. We kind of just like, nah, I've seen men do this all the time where, nah, man, she's just but he's deeply in love with this girl. Like, and you find out later on, you're like, what 2 months ago, she was just this girl. But now you're in, you know what I mean? We just start hiding how we feel and stuff like that. But that's conditioning and other stuff like that. How does
safety as well? Safety. That's safety.
Safety.
Or an attempt. An attempt at safety, because that thing that we call love, that we can't properly define and put into words, but we know if we've had those kind of feelings for a person, right? We know that if we felt that way about a woman, as much as fun as it is, exhilarating it is as greatest thing in the world as it is, it's one of the scariest things in the world, because you're like, I am vulnerable. If this
You're
goes
both
south,
naked in front of
I'm
each other.
done out here. Like I'm done out here. Like emotionally, I'm done out here. So for that reason, it's not an easy thing to run and embrace. Like, hey, this is the one. This is like people kind of like be, like almost like you're sliding down a slide, but you're kind of trying to hold. You don't just let go and go with it. You're kind of like a bit cautious because if this thing builds up speed,
your face.
I could hurt myself. I could fly off at the bottom and hurt myself. So we're a bit, especially men. I think women are. Vulnerability is easier for women. I would think, in comparison, generally, obviously men and women are unique, level, I think generally speaking, women will find it easier to be or have that ability. I think it's just the way it is. I think it's socialization. I think it's socialization. Girls from a young age, they talk a lot. They got a lot of dialogue. Their friendships are based around sitting down and chatting while they're playing with each other, flattening each other's ear and talking in the playground. Boys, we're task orientated. We don't really show much. We're kind of more simple, not too nuanced. You still friends with John? He's an idiot. I kind of summarize everything.
Bro,
whereas you ask the girl,
you're
not friends with Sonia anymore. No, she said to me and I said to her, then she came back in and they're complicated. They got like sophisticated, should I say. Like, so we don't really have that. That's true.
When someone says an idiot, we all know exactly what
you know what I mean? Or he's my guy, man. But it's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
No, it's true. I'm happy you said that we're task oriented, and I think I think this was where the social condition says, men are simple. We're just simple. We just want this, that, and the third. And women are like, no, they're not simple. We can't understand you. But it's all back down to love language and things of that. Why is sex so important? From a clinical point, I want to hear why sex is important in a relationship. And how do couples make it better, especially those who've been in it for a minute, and a minute meaning 10 years or more? How do you make sex better? How do you keep the bedroom bouncing like you lot were in your 20s again?
Okay. So first of all, why is it so important? I think it's because literally, right, the chemicals that our body releases, there's like oxytocin, there's some different chemicals that our body releases, particularly like for related to orgasm. I think that these chemicals that are released, some of the same chemicals are released for a woman, right? When she's in childbirth and when she's breastfeeding as well. So these and they have, one of the things they have is a bonding. They have a bonding impact. Some of the chemicals that's released when a man orgasms as well, they bond you to that woman. And this is what they say sometimes porn is harmful. Men that use pornography, masturbate to pornography, they because they're ejaculating, they become bound. So it can become, although there's no chemicals involved, like heroin or crack or anything.
Stimulating the same side of the brain,
but the same dopamines are released. So it can really be a really strong addiction. And some people don't, it's not addiction, it's an addiction. Addiction.
Then normal sex becomes boring to you. You can't, it's true. I read also a documentary on that, and I realized, and I didn't know, and I was like, wow, I wish someone told every one of us growing up that don't mess with this and mess with that, because it is a mad addiction. Like, and they did so many documentaries on it where men couldn't function in normal settings. You know what I mean? Or try to play out some of the stuff they've seen, and it doesn't go down well because that's not what you do, or that's maybe what she's into. But you got to find a way to keep your sex life thriving, because it's a very important part of intimacy, bonding. I think it increases on the bond. We got to see sex as something medicinal. Bonding. I look at sex as something medicinal.
I think it's something spiritual. I think
for the soul, for the mind, for the body. It
binds the two people together. And I said, for men, it can regenerate us in a sense where, like, on a spiritual level, like we can be disheveled, like emotionally, mentally. And this is where I think men and women can be different. Like, if a woman's in a bad space emotionally, maybe it will make her unsexy. Whereas a man could be stressed out and suffering, and he can actually have sex with his wife and actually, like, it was like morphine, or he went for a counseling session, or he took more than psychotherapy and medication and a long walk and a stroll in the park where there's a lake, all combined times 10. If you to the woman that he loves, you get what I'm trying to say to you? It can literally heal him spiritually, help his mental health, and really like give him clarity in life, and
clarity is the word actually that best describes it, because some people use
it's just a physical thing and it's just medicinal. But with his love with his woman, some spiritual, it's holy.
Real talk.
It's holy.
It is, and obviously we're speaking as men that do understand women have a lot to take on and so forth, but we just want to dispel some of the myths that it's just this pure sexual disgusting thing that men do. Like, nah, that stimulation creates that bond, and that bond gets stronger every time you're intimate. You know what I mean? And if you're constantly intimate, it will keep building a bond on a constant basis. So it makes all the sense in the world. Even before we leave, actually, I want to even ask something else about what consent, because consent seems to be the hot topic in society about consent. And sometimes I sit with my guys and we talk about it, and we start to realize how the culture is now. We're assessing down memory lane and thinking, was that consent? Was that because of the social norms changing over time? But it's kind of hard to, because if you meet someone and you guys feel each other, you've gone on dates, you've done it the proper way or whatever that is, and you decide to get intimate, she's willing, you're willing. Nobody stops and says, you are consenting to, or you're giving me permission. It's in the moment. But I think it's dangerous, because that's not how life works. It's some sort of unspoken connection thing. Like, you want it, I want it. You're kissing me.
There's an unspoken contract, man. There's an unspoken contract in many situations, yeah.
But that unspoken contract's got people in sticky situations. You know what I mean? How do we as society, what do you think, is that something, how do we go around that? You know what I mean? I want the young men them to really get game on that.
I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this. Right? And it's a really difficult area to navigate, because at the end of the day, people have been navigating it for hundreds, if not thousands of years, yeah. And but it's really recent times, last 5 years or whatever, and the Me Too and everything like that. And obviously those things have come out of genuine abuse and genuine reasons. But I think it's got like a lot of men quite weary, because like the historical aspect of things and whatever. And if, you know, like, what does consent mean, in a sense? Well, like, is it consent a verbally expressed consent, or is it consent being, well, she was going along with it, like, I didn't know any better. How else would I know? And
it's so great.
It's a really difficult area. It's really difficult for me to actually answer that, in the sense of like,
it's causing too much it's ruining, it's controlling. You can control the whole population control with that, because I don't know if it's appropriate to touch you on it. Sometimes now as a man, we're on the defense. You know what I mean? So you just, man, I'm talking about, bro.
They say feminism killed chivalry, innit? Feminism killed chivalry. Man was like, you want to open the door? Should I pay? Like, one thing in Black culture, I think that feminism only got so much of a foothold, but you only have to ask if a man should pay on the first date. You find out quick who's really a feminist and who ain't a feminist. You got these different conversations emerging, like a guy takes a girl out, a young lady out on a date, and then she's saying, "Oh, why are you paying? Can you get 2 boxes for my kids as well? Like, can you get a takeaway?" And he's like, "No, I can't do that, actually." And it's like, should he pay? Shouldn't he? So we know feminism ain't gone that deep, isn't it? It's not that deep.
Feminism gone that point. It's gone that deep, because I always ask men, like, what's your idea on consent? Because I still trying to characterize, especially when I talk to younger men as well, and I'm just like, because I'll tell my sisters, for example, hey, don't go strolling, like my actual biological sisters. I'm like, listen, because of social conditioning, don't do certain things. Help yourself by not placing yourself in compromised position. Example, there's no reason to link a man at 1 a.m. in the morning. There is actually no logical reason to go link a man, because if we're talking about sitting down, spending time, these are unsociable hours, number one. So if he doesn't say or not, the only thing sociable that can happen at those hours is sex. That's from a social conditional point. So don't do that. It's the same way as, you know, in any other scenarios, like, look, if you know in this area they're harassing young black boys constantly, bro, carry yourself in a different way. I know it's not the ideal, but who wants to deal with that? But for women, I guess they may look at it as a different point, but what's your thoughts on it anyway?
I think when you're in terms of, if you're talking about giving advice from a woman's point of view, I think that's spot on, because I don't think that people should say a man should know and a man should know.
No,
you have to take it like my primary responsibility is to take care of myself, isn't it? So I don't care if I've got a right to wear white gold down the road at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I ain't really gonna walk through certain areas with a Rolex on because of risk. Not because I don't have the right to, but because of the potential risk. So I think that women should always put themselves in the best situation in terms of protecting themselves. I think that's essential. But also, in terms of what I teach, one of the courses, one of the modules that I teach is, funny enough, is respect for women, because we definitely recognize there is a lack. With all the art and
there is a lack.
You know, like this not Nicki Minaj, or, you know, this gush and wop and all, but all this kind of culture, this whole culture of it,
it's hypersexualized culture now.
Yeah, it's distorting young women's views of young women, and I'll be able to teach some of my young scholars, as I call them, like, about your integrity towards a woman is based on your integrity to yourself. Not based on, but look what they do. Don't know. It's based on you as a man and your principles.
It's about your principles, not about what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. She's still a woman at the end of the day. So
she's
whether
still a female, she's still a woman. So you have respect,
whether she's promiscuous
based on
or not,
you know what I'm saying,
on your integrity, not what you're seeing, because then you're allowing something.
Part of that respect will be, you know, like getting into issues in terms of consent.
Because you could get jammed up for these young men. You could get jammed up by, you know, she playing games with it, you playing games with it, or when they love to get drunk, you know, they always love to get lit and do all this stuff, and then she wakes up and it's a problem, or whatever the case may be. So I'm trying to protect the young kings out there. I'm like, hey, what is consent? How does one navigate? Just being an elder gentleman, a more wise one. How do they navigate that? Because it could be a scary thing. Because I'm trying to think, if I'm 18 in 2021, like, I'll be scared to death.
I'll be scared
about the world has never been so scary for a young man. Like, let's be honest, women, I'm not trying to say we have the biggest problem. No, but you have to understand the lessons I have to give my son's turning 9. The lessons I have to give him is a whole course on interactions with females, for him to understand, like, you cannot, because the accusation alone, forget if you did it or not, that's irrelevant. The accusation can ruin you. The accusation, I've seen it before he's even gone to court, before they've proven a damn thing. An accusation can take a man's life down.
Damage a man's life.
You know what I'm saying? So as I'm thinking, as a young man, black, white, Asian, it's a wild world. Like, for men, it's the scariest time. At 18 years old now, I don't even know how to approach.
That's one of my principles about. I was raised, like, given an awareness at a certain age about even being alone with women, like just being on your own with women in general, not because you don't trust yourself, but about your reputation. So nobody can't even make a mistake.
Yeah.
And say, oh, what were they? You know, like they can't even insinuate something because we was working, but the office door was wide open, or do you understand? Very funny about things like that as you get older. But I was taught from a young age about that.
Because now, I'm like, keep the door open, fam. I'm telling you, man, hey, keep the door open.
You get what I'm trying to
keep the door open at all times. Yeah. Keep your hands to yourself. Talk in a non-threatening, because it's all perception and different.
It's very difficult. You talk about, I mean, I don't want to sound like the good old days, because the old days was bad and the old days was good. You know, we are where we are. But I just know that when I was a teenager, because you said 18, I was like, get like a flashback, and I was like, it was a bit different in the sense where we used to have this thing where you asked the girl out.
Yeah.
And ask her out didn't mean specifically to an event, but mean like, will you go out with me?
Would you?
Don't mean where. If you weren't going to ask you, where do you mean? She means, she will say yes or no. I'm going to think about it. And she might phone you later and go, I'll go out with you. And that now means that's my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's simpler.
Right? It's clear. It's not like we kind of did a thing and something happened and it kind of, you're all right with that? You cool with it? What, are you going to try to phone me tomorrow? It's no vagueness. She is now that guy's girlfriend. And then they work it out. Do you know what I mean? As a couple, they go on and, you know, things happen or whatever, like, but it's kind of a different era where
it is.
People are swapping left and swiping right. It's where are you? Where? Left, right. And then me and Netflix and chill, and they kind of doing it back.
That mechanism is crazy. Yeah. That mechanism is crazy.
There's that program that comes on TV where the people pick somebody naked and they go on, and they put their clothes on and go on a date, like back to front. I forgot what they call it.
I saw an advert for it. Oh my days. I was like, we're seeing more of that on TV, you know. Have you noticed? We're seeing more relationship things where love at first sight and all these non-conventional, I don't know this person, or without seeing each other, can true love exist? We've come to become obsessed with this human connection, because I feel like we know deep down we're losing it. We're losing a lot of the human connection. So that's why we're reaching for, minus physically what I can see, can I fall in love with just your personality? And then if I see you, can it all go on? Do you understand what I'm saying? Which I always think is a tricky
it's
game.
like you mentioned about the relationship skills. When you said earlier, I was thinking, when you said somebody's in a relationship or married or whatever for 15 years,
yeah.
Do you think you could just come out and be like dating and socially, like have those skills? It's not easy, is it? It's not easy. It's not easy.
I'm like, how are you gonna do that? Because I'm like, I've been in my relationship for a decade, and I'm like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, I'm so used to being myself around a female. I wouldn't even know what to say to you. I'm so meek. You might meet the worst of me in that day. I wouldn't even know how to, because it's not the same. Things have changed. People are speaking different. You know what I mean? When you're with someone for so long, you have to understand it's like you've come off one stream of consciousness into another.
You're one with that person now.
You're one with that person.
You don't know other people like, you don't know other people like that. You don't know other women like that.
Everyone else are just passing bodies. They're just people in it. And until we tap one of them, then we can talk and adjust and we interact from just an energy perspective. So it's quite interesting how we've come a long way as human beings, but we're all reaching out. But Hugh, how can people get in touch with you and take some of your practice? And how can they really benefit from what you got going on? Because that's very important.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, my contact details, they can get me on email. Send me an email at emotionalinsight@hotmail.co.uk, or call me on 0203 701 2265. I've got, as I said, private practice where I see individuals, not only for relationship issues, but relationships is one of my specialities. But individual counseling, or sometimes I see people who are going through relational issues, but I see them as individuals because they need to go through their own process. They need to feel in a safe environment where they can express themselves. And maybe at that moment in time, the relationship is so heightened and tense that it will only, kind of be a bit more conflict. So they need someone to kind of like think outside of the box and away from the conflict zone. So yeah, so I offer counseling or coaching, and there's going to be big things this year. There's going to be some big things on this
YouTube.
year.
What's the YouTube channel? You got one?
Yeah, so the YouTube channel is Emotional Insight TV, and the main podcast is It Takes Two. So if you put It Takes Two and you put even my name in, like Hugh Mayers, it will come up. And there's a few hot episodes there already.
I was watching one. I think it was filming the speaker. You're coming through speakers or something like that. I think you've posted that one. And I think it was an audio. I don't think it was a video of you or someone. I think you just filmed.
Oh, that might be some stuff I did with Lady Essie and DJ Supreme.
That was very insightful. Yeah. That was very interesting one.
FM.
So people understand you know, counseling, when you hear the word counseling therapy, don't think you have to be broke to go get fixed. No. Sometimes it's also maintenance. Sometimes it's an upgrade. Sometimes if you're committed to your relationship, you go get these assistance because you want to just be better in that area. Maybe she's told you that, you don't spend enough time and you're just like, wow, how do I get this done? Because I seem to overwork and do I'm doing like this. Sometimes, from a cultural standpoint, we think it has to be broken and then I go see somebody. No, sometimes you check in just to make sure everything is A-okay, do you understand what I'm saying? And get those right tips and directions. And I will be posting the details below. Hugh, I appreciate you again, King. Thank you for sliding through. Thank you for your wisdom, man. It was such a big, I was looking for this all week when I had notes. I told the man, I said, listen, this podcast here, I want you lot to have it first exclusively. And then we're going to make notes because then when we see each other next, I want us to understand certain things. So it's dope as well. And I want to encourage men to do more of that. Man, they need to kick up like the olden days, like how our forefathers did it. We came together, sat around the fire. All right, family, what's your issue? You vent your thing, speak your truth. All right, man, what's your issue? And then we reason, you get me? That's what man was supposed to do, reason, sit together. And sometimes it's not even in your circle. I brought it up. I made it a thing where you link up at a studio and we just chill. I made it a thing, you know what I mean? Because I know we're older now and we can use each other's wisdom a little bit just to help navigate, because
the power of the circle, the power of the circle.
To go there and sit down and reason, man, and vent, man, and listen to you, vent your thing, and then get it off your chest. Then when you ask us, okay, was I wrong? We'll tell you in a heartbeat, no or yes, or if it depends, we bust it down until you understand it. So when you go back home now, your man will reason with you. So you can kind of understand why missus is not feeling you right now. You know what I mean? Sometimes we tell our man them like, fam, that's a begging thing. If you ain't got peas, listen, we put £5 there. Buy her flowers because, bro, we're not going to see you for months. You're going to be grounded. Yeah, and we have to keep this thing rolling because we need this. So go get the wine or whatever she likes, whatever acts of service she likes. Go and do it and fix it because we need each other. That's just the realest of it. We need each other. A lot of us didn't grow up with the best relationships with our fathers, so we lean on each other. So we say, okay, cool, reason. So I do want to encourage more people to do things like that, or go get a coach to coach you to get better at whatever aspect, because this is somebody you love, and it makes sense to present the best version of yourself at all times. So Hugh, peace, love, and light, brother. I will put your links at the bottom, and I'm looking forward to kicking it again, man.
Yeah, well, I'll drop by, or maybe I have to get you to come over to my drop by my studio.
Wow, let me know. Let
I know you
me
brought down
know.
some serious nutritional stuff that
let me
need
know,
to hear
man.
it. The people need to hear it. So I'll be in touch, man. I'll be in touch, family.
All right, then. Peace, love, and light, everyone. Peace, you.